Test it. There we go. This time I wasn't muted. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Great Train Layouts Live. I'm your host, Nico Zarak, and tonight we are back in the land of the Loleta and Mad River Railroad, paying tribute to the late Iain Rice, designing his well-known 4x8 HO scale track plan in Trains with a Z, Railroad Simulator 19. It's great to have you along for the ride this evening. As you'll recall, back in October, part 1 of this build, we constructed the track, we laid the track, we placed buildings, and we did some detailing of the scenes here at the Big Harbor. Today, we're gonna explore what we could do with the Little Harbor, as well as trying to figure out how we want to go about backdrops, because I'm undecided as to whether or not this is going to be open on 3 sides or 4. That's what we're going to find out. We're going to have some fun along the way. Great to have you guys along for the ride. Rudy, C. Jane, Railroad Guy, and Carolyn. And Double Tube Fan 5. I'm so happy that you can join and offer your feedback, criticism, random observations, points of humor, etc. So, you know how we do it here on Great Train Layouts Live. We're going to be finishing up the scenery as much as we can, hopefully getting the kind of the big scenic elements done with this tonight, and then we're going to play test this with a fictional railroad, the Umpqua River Railroad and Western. I have to double check the name on that. Hello, David Mitchell in Blackwater. Glad to have you on board. So, you'll have noticed, for those who were watching October, we did change a couple of details around. We've got this new iron truss bridge that's a replacement for the wood one. True to real life, eh? I just like this one a little better. It fits the space nicely, and it has a nice, robust look to it. So first thing is we're going to play around with some of the elements. So if we look at the original track plan, and we see what is designed for this space and what we have to work with, because those are kind of two different things. As you know, with Trains with a Z, you have the benefits of this large catalog of buildings and assets that people have created for all sorts of projects, and if you're an asset creator, then you could make buildings and things to fit exactly what you need, but I am not. So I go off of what other people have generously created before me. So I spent a lot of time between builds trying to come up with buildings that I felt would fit this backdrop scene nicely, and I'm really happy with the ones that are here. You can see that it causes the harbor to become smaller. So this black line that we've got right here, that is where the track originally was, but we needed to create more space to be able to fit this. We're calling this a salmon canning industry, which makes sense because you'd have the boats coming in, unloading the fish. They could be canned, and then they could be hauled out by rail. And then we have this lobster house as well. The lobster house, I think, is going to go where we see this kind of arrangement of buildings here. Oops. That's not what I meant to move. So I think it's going to end up going here. This building is an extra addition just because I thought it was a nice fit for the corner. We have to line, based on the way the Train Z works, I have to line the fascia, the edges of the layout up with the grid, which you can kind of see I've done over here. So I'm cheating a little bit. This isn't exactly 4x8, but it's not that far off. Something seems fishy about the industries. Ha ha. Hi, Ron. Glad to see that you're back from October. So and I might be cheating a little bit with some of the buildings on the outside. There's also a design question in my mind that I'm going to be posing to you guys that does change the nature of the layout a bit. I really want to adhere as closely to his vision, to Iain Rice's vision as possible, but I do have one addition where I'm like, I'm tempted to do it, and I want to know what you guys think. But before we get to that, let's have some fun over here. And let's start with something nice and easy. So you see that big circle there? Well, are we going to put on that big circle? Well, I will show you what we're going to put on that big circle. And this is your first chance to vote for a part of the layout design, because you have a choice. That big circle is for a lighthouse. Now, here's where you get to choose. This is the lighthouse I was originally going to go with. And then I found this lighthouse. And if we turn off the base maps, you will see that this lighthouse, we would have to create some terrain and rocks underneath. And we could do that. But I really like the terrain and rocks and so forth of this one. So, black lighthouse or white lighthouse? Your vote counts if you're watching this live. Though if you're commenting after the fact, I appreciate your participation nevertheless. But which lighthouse do you think fits the look of this more in terms of fitting the scene out? And either way, having a lighthouse here, I mean, it's such a nice structure. I know that there's many rail fans who are also lighthouse enthusiasts. This is a magazine cover element in my mind. You could have such a nice scene of watching a train go around this cliff edge or right next to one of these lighthouses. I'll let you have a moment to vote before we finalize that, Ian. While you're doing that, let's talk about how we're going to go about creating this harbor. This harbor is the key to it in my mind is I want this divider to look realistic, because we could just drop it down with a rock face, but I feel like if you're looking straight down the center of it, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're looking at it lengthwise, and maybe you have your layout mounted up high enough that you are always looking at lengthwise, and so you can never truly see both sides at the same time. But I think a lot of 4x8s, there's this idea that you have the ability to look down. And I just feel like if we make it too skinny and narrow, that it becomes kind of implausible, because then you have this very narrow rock margin. Now, if you made it a man-made wall, that'd be different, but I like the cliff wall. I want to go with the cliff wall. So I was thinking about this today, and I thought I want to do kind of a soft incline that's also built up of rock, but not a hard cliff face. Doing that in trains is going to be interesting, but we're going to give it a try. And I think I know where I want to try for assets with that. This is where we're going to get kind of it roughed in, because to get all the splines to look right and to really not notice how kind of abrupt the ballast is in terms of how it drops off, that's going to require refinement that I'd rather do off camera. Let's, if we go, we can close this up. Where is my text box? Why am I not? Oh, because I have such a long pick list. That's why. Okay, so I think if it's Zuit or Zute. I think it's Zute. While I'm looking this up, what are you guys saying? Okay. So Collaborators, who's the designer of the creator of the URRNN, is biased towards the black one. I'm seeing white. White. So white is winning the day, so we're gonna go with White House. Lighthouse on that. So these Zute Cliffs. The question is, can we go with something that's... yeah, that might do the trick. And you're going, oh my gosh, that is gigantic. And yes, it is gigantic. Thank you for noticing. But we're not going to use it at that full height. The only trick with it is that it's so wide. I think it's gonna... No, that's not gonna work because it's too wide. But let's see if we've got something else that maybe isn't quite as wide. I really like these cliff faces. Oh, there we go. I think this is it right here. Let us give this a shot. It's still a bit sharp, but my thinking isn't that it's going to be solely about representing the cliff with these rocks. I have this idea of like some type of spline asset or something that's more pebbly rock. I'm not entirely sure, but this will at least get us with something we could use for today, and then off stream I'll enhance that a bit more, because this is going to be tricky to kind of marry up as far as everything's concerned, but I like the basic look of that. That is, I didn't want it to be a solid face. So we're probably going to end up in the long run using a combination of like 3 or 4 different splines, and that's going to get tricky and messy, but we will at least get the sort of rough outline of what we're going for. And if we put the base maps back on, just to kind of see what he was envisioning as far as the borders of the land, then that kind of gives us a sense of how this all fits. Obviously, the benefit of what we're doing with this pre-visualization is that we don't have to adhere 100% to such an idea and such a design, but it's kind of worth having some idea of what the creator was making. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's nice. I like that. I'm very, very happy with that. So, yes, that is the stuff right there. And you see what we've done now in a very loose sense is that now this doesn't look like there's this very narrow causeway of track that has this magical plot of land perfectly situated. Now it looks like, okay, there's more of a natural causeway, and maybe there was some man carved the entrance to this harbor, something like that. But I like that. Oh, I like that. Okay. Now let's have a look at what we're doing here. This is going to be a fun scene. This is something I want this to really feel self-contained. So even though we're going with the slightly lower lighthouse, the lighthouse, because it's such a strong fixture, serves as a really good dividing element between this portion of the layout, which is our entrance into the harbor, and this portion, which is the inner harbor. I guess outer harbor, inner harbor. I like that nomenclature. So we can just delete this because we know we're not using it. Sorry, Mike. Look forward to seeing your version of DRRNN someday. Yeah, that's looking right. But you see that then it kind of serves as this dividing line. So this, making this feel like its own self-contained scene is going to be the goal of what we have going on here. And now it becomes a question of, so in this version, there's a road that leads to the wharf. We've got a road that leads to the wharf. We've got a road that goes by here. And I think that on the original... So I think the reason I came up with this lobster building is that there's a lobster shack in from the bay. So we're putting ours out into the water. So do we want to push this in closer becomes the question. I want to have a wider land berth here. It's tempting to go bigger on the water, because then that makes the water look more realistic, but I kind of want to make sure that I have enough room for the land, because I like the idea that if you're looking down, I mean, granted, this lighthouse is sort of preventing us from looking down entirely, but if you're looking down the layout like this, I want it to have some depth, not just it immediately cuts into the sea. That's the idea we're going for here. And maybe even get some trees and so forth. I mean, I haven't fully decided what's going on this edge. And because that's the staging cassette, and that's a whole other subject, which we'll probably get to later. But it'd be nice to have some trees, given that frequently I'm building these layouts are loaded with trees. This one has none, and I think we should have a few, because this is one of the places where we could convey a sense. This is maybe, in fact, the only place where we're conveying any sense of distance. And any sense of traveling through a scene. Now, you could say, well, isn't that what this causeway is? And I would say no for two reasons, in my opinion. The reason why I wouldn't classify the causeway as just sort of generic traveling, anytime you have a switch, that kind of, it's like a pin in a map. It sets it as a location. I think that the best layouts, even if they're small, I mean, maybe if you're doing a micro and you only have one scene, that is what it is. But if you have any way of giving a sense of just a little bit of a gap from one place to another, where there's not some sort of thing going on railroad rise, then that's a benefit to explore. And this is our one place where there's no switching, there's no passenger station. This is truly you watch your train go through the scene. So I think at this point we could probably turn this off. I think we've learned what we need to learn from the base maps for the time being. I put this here just in case we'd end up using it. I don't think we're going to end up actually using it. I don't want to make the water too crowded, and I don't think... Oh, the reason I put it here, there's a little bit of a wharf here, but honestly, I kind of like the idea of keeping this open. It's a nice kind of mirror to what we have going on this side. So this is sort of a nice, almost in-between scene. But I think that that's what this becomes here, especially if we're not using this very obvious switch stand, which we'll probably replace later. I do like the idea of getting roads in here. So, again, going back to the track plan, is it one grade crossing or two? It kind of looks like there's definitely a grade crossing here. There may or may not be one there. I'm just going to stick with a grade crossing in this general vicinity. I think that for my design, we're going to have the road coming in here, crossing, and just going to Port Lobster. I think that's going to be the extent of it. And then maybe enough room to tether one's horses. So we will grab the land here, and then we'll raise up the sides to kind of, because I think the factory, this, I think it's a blacksmith shop, something like that. That feels like it should be on that raised land. Oh, yeah, that's a nice scene right there. The original plan doesn't call for anything in this corner. You could do it as just trees, but I like having something that's industry but not served by the rail. It just fits that corner really nicely. I just want that there. So now to just get the terrain to kind of work with the... Well, we might actually climb up with the land alongside. Just something along these lines. But I also have to make sure this makes sense in terms of how it goes into the harbor. And I also have to create the harbor. So maybe that's a good place to go next. This is the type of thing where being able to pre-visualize and see what your landscape features are going to look like is such a benefit, because being able to look at this and working with water and model railroading as far as creating water scenes, I think water is one of the harder elements to get to look right, and it's also a lot of work even when you do get it to look right. Saying this as somebody who has built a river for an HO scale layout. So I think that just anything that kind of gives you that confidence that here's where I want the water to go, and here's what it's going to look like, just makes it that much easier, as opposed to all the more guesswork involved with do I really want it there, and what does it look like. One of the great elements of Iain's artistry as a designer is that he would create illustrations of his layout. So if you look at the PDF that's linked in the description of this video, you will see the you'll see a PDF that has a bunch of different track plans, including this one, and you'll see an illustration that he drew. And that illustration is definitely something that has inspired me to build this, because obviously we're getting to play test this, we're getting to visualize it, but it's so nice to have a track plan where you're not just looking at it from the top down, but you can actually get a sense of what the atmosphere is about, especially just being able to see an illustration of a nice tall schooner is really a nice feature in there. I'm really liking how this building, despite the fact that Port Lobster is not designed for this layout, I like how it looks in the mix of things. We're gonna need to replace the tracks on the side, because these tracks are creating ballast, and I have a feeling that we're gonna put them up on a pier so that the water can go underneath. We want to keep up appearance. I know. Okay, especially because of the way the track snakes out now. I think that it makes sense that there's so little room to work that rather than... I mean, okay, well, this is where we get into more kind of questionings of things. Because we could just do it this same sort of way, but I think part of why I want to do it differently is just because we did it this way here. I like this aesthetic with having the stone wall. But admittedly, I like experimenting, and I think doing more of this kind of thing will be a nice touch. Am I actually going to use that trestle in that case as the means of building the track? Maybe? Or do I use some other pier asset? Well, let us find out by making the track cover in place, and then we can see what those two options look like. So I'd say to about right there is roughly where it should be. So now we see the track floating in midair. See the buildings floating a little bit. That's okay. I'm glad my terrible puns are appreciated by you guys. You don't know how good that makes me feel. And dads across America have erupted into spontaneous laughter from that pun. Good. Then I know I'm doing my due diligence. Come for the pre-visualization, stay for the puns. We're gonna modify this just a wee bit, just because I feel like if we're going with the bridge, we are gonna be probably changing that a little bit. Keeping it relatively smooth in the process. Let's see. I think that'll work enough. If I end up replacing it, I'll, well, replace it. That works for me. Except, man, that curve is wonky donkey. And yes, wonky donkey is, in fact, the technical term for that curve. But I think if we do it like this, then that'll smooth out a bit more. And then if we move the... Now, that is a tight curve, but, I mean, when you consider we're dealing with this type of curve, I think it's within reason. And we could also move that building a little bit this way. Yeah. I'm happy. Ooh, I am very happy with that. Oh, golly, I am happy with that. So now we delete. I just have to remember where I put it, and then it goes to here. Set the height, and we set it to straight, and... Oop. Oh, yep, that is cool. So we'll use that as the base, and then we'll probably use a wooden spline to create our deck. And then, yeah, I know how I want to do this now. Goody! I like when I know how I want to do things. Alrighty, let's get some terrain, let's get some water in here, because that's going to go a long way to telling us what we can and can't do, and just plain look cool in the process of doing it all. Wonky donkey, yes, that is a technical term. technical term for when something is off. It is wonky donkey. And Rudy, I know that you're a good illustrator, so if you want to come up with with an actual illustration of a wonky donkey, be my guest. Oh man, it's so good to be with you guys tonight, and so much fun to do this kind of stuff. Obviously, Thanksgiving made things reasons for the kind of funky time on this is because of Thanksgiving and going out of town and that type of thing. I feel like I need to do the responsible YouTuber thing of having a set time and set release schedule for this, but I just have so many things going on. So I appreciate your flexibility on Thursday nights. I can't, at least I'll try to keep it consistent Thursday nights, because Thursday nights works for me. That is making me so happy right now. Now let's see what happens if we go a little... I don't know how high the supports go on the... well, if we lower it a wee bit, those supports actually kind of do go all the way down to the water. I don't even really care if they touch the base of the water itself. I'm just trying to see if they can go down to it. Because then, once they hit the water, you don't really notice if they're not submerged or not. Let us see. So this is... Yep. Ooh. Yeah. Okay, so they're in the water now. And... yeah. That fits really well. Now, do I want to make this crooked? This is an interesting question. So one of the principles of layout design that you often come across is don't always have things at perpendicular angles, whether that be your track to your layout edge, or buildings to one another, because life is not perfect, the world is not perfect, and that is something that when you can reflect that in your layout building helps to give it a sense of realism. And even in the design, he had it angled a little bit one way. So, what do we think of it if it's this way? I don't know. I think it kind of has to be perpendicular, because otherwise it really looks off when compared to this big building here. I like it square. Call me a square, but we're going square. But honestly, when you're looking at it from the standpoint of this side, it doesn't feel quite as mundane a choice. So we're going to go with that. Which means that we can have our water go a little further in. I think like so. Like that. Yeah. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. I mean, this is where I love train simulation, because obviously, if you build this layout as is, you're never going to be sticking your head in the middle of the water. Maybe you'll stick your cell phone for a photo. But that is a nice view. And sometimes you get ideas for other layouts or other ways of dividing a layout. So if you couldn't do this as a full 4x8, but you like this inside curve. I mean, this is where you just put the lighthouse in the corner and just have this as an inside curve. Like, that is a good scene. I am happy with that. I am very happy with that. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so I'm gonna turn on more soft land. Yeah, we're gonna turn the sensitivity down to try to fit this. Well, I suppose now we should try to get this this lighthouse into place. So the lighthouse, we're gonna make it try to fit so that it hits the water about here, where you see those go in, and then maybe pull it back, because I want to keep the harbor wide enough. I don't want the sense that this would be limiting its width. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a bit lower than I want, though. I mean, can you imagine putting the lighthouse on the level of the tracks and crews coming by and they just get blinded every time? Ooh, I'm blinded by the lighthouse. Yeah, maybe right about there. Yeah, yep. I feel good about that. That looks right to me. Except those rocks. Wait, those rocks are floating in midair, aren't they? Yeah, but I can put other rocks underneath them. That's not a big deal. I think if I search CL rock, I might even find something that matches that pretty easily. Yep, there we go. Oh, that's the ticket. Looky at that. Now, maybe it's not quite realistic in how the moss rocks blend with the regular rocks, but I really like those CL rocks. So that is going to be what we go with, folks. Oh, nice. And then maybe just rolling it. Oh, object doesn't allow rolling. Then we'll use a different. No, that's a small rock. Something like this. Hey, we got the accordion music. Yay for accordion music. Has anybody else, very random question for you guys, has anybody else seen the Weird, the Al Yankovic story? If not, you should totally go check it out, especially if you're a Weird Al fan. I loved that film. Random shout out, but that was a fun movie. That looks good. So, now on the actual layout, the border is here, but we have this little extra bit of land to work with, so what do we want to do with that? Good question. Well, I'm kind of, my immediate default is trees, but then I'm sort of envisioning like a windswept coast type of thing. So I don't know that I want to put any trees here immediately. I feel like maybe a couple around this road or around this, like right in this corner. Like we allude to this being more inland, so there's more trees here. There will certainly be more of that this way, and as you could kind of see where we're going with the backdrops, but no, I think I want to keep this to just grass. Which means we'll use this as the base, and then we'll hone that in. We'll vary that up a little bit more. But this will be a good kind of... I like the mossiness of this. It feels very wet. But it may be a question more relevant to more folks. How was your Thanksgiving? Did you have a good time? If you are not from the U.S., have you had a good month plus? Hope that you have been enjoying yourselves, having good time with your model railroading. I know that I have. I've actually, I've been doing some model railroading, but you see what's behind me? Do you see that it actually has a building and there's a train on it? I am pleased to announce, I know that all of you have been on tenterhooks as far as what is Nick Ozark doing for his train layout. I know that you're not. Bear with me. But, yes, the question. So what, because I've talked a lot about, or at least I feel like I've talked a lot about how I'm very indecisive as far as what I want to do for my actual train layout. And so the thing that I came up with that felt right for a number of reasons is I am building the Greenfield Village as part of the Henry Ford Museum located in Dearborn, Michigan. That is my current official train layout build. So that layout behind me is about 2.5 feet by a little over 5 feet with a cassette for enabling some switching. Rocky. Not rocky. Nah. Maybe not that dense. Oh, yeah. Yep, I like that. 2 feet by 5 feet, which means very tight turns. But the thing that makes me really happy is to say that I can prototypically have a loop of track and it's true to life. That sort of fills me with an inner sense of joy. The reason I settled on it, I love Greenfield Village. If you've never been to Greenfield Village, you owe it to yourselves. It is such an amazing place on so many levels. I can't even begin to describe how cool it is. But basically, it's a historic village, hundreds of historic buildings from around the world, mostly North American, but very well done displays. And there's a train, a working full-scale standard gauge railroad that goes around the perimeter of the village. And so that is what I'm building behind me. Reject modernity, embrace tree. Well, that's never a bad idea. Although I don't know the rocks are necessarily modern. But yes, that is my current train layout build. And the reason I like it is because I thought of doing other things. I was going to do a dinner train-based thing and more. I had ideas for switching puzzles, but I decided that I wanted something that felt more relaxing to operate. Something that it does enable switching, so I could have my train in the round. My train. Oh, sound like a non-foamer. I could have my steam locomotive in the roundhouse, and then I could go get my cars and then take them to the station and then run circles. So it's not that there's a ton of switching, but I think it's more where my mind is at these days, to have something a little bit easier to run, because so much of the work that I do on a daily basis as a filmmaker is involving the creative parts of my brain that, honestly, to do something that's a little bit more straightforward of just run a train in circles and watch it go, felt like what I wanted to build. The other interesting reason why I chose it is because back in the 1970s, 80s, the model company Helgen manufactured 4 different kits of buildings from Greenfield Village. So based on the buildings, train station, Thomas Edison's workshop, the first Ford Motor Company dealership or factory, I think dealership, shop. We'll say shop. That shop can be interpreted in a few different ways. And that's an interesting color. Oh, that's a very interesting color that I do like. The Wright Brothers bicycle shop. So there's these 4 kits that I don't have to scratch build. I don't have to kit bash. They are going to look like the real life buildings. So that just felt like what I wanted to focus on and what I wanted to build. And so I'm having it's a really good bedtime exercise, especially when I want to get off the computer to just work on one of these kits. And it's just nice to be working from kits as opposed to having to scratch build or that kind of thing. So that's what I'm building. And maybe at some point, yes, I did pre-visualize it in The Sim. So if you guys are interested, maybe I'll do some sort of, I don't know if I'll do it as a live stream. Maybe there's a few builds that have not appeared publicly yet, and that I've completed. So maybe we'll do a live stream that's just playing with different layouts one of these days, as opposed to building. And I'll show off the previs version of that. This is looking a bit rough. I like this texture, but man, those rocks are bright. That's an interesting color. Kind of a bluish type of thing. See, does that feel... No, that feels like a shelf. As in like a top layer of rock. I don't... Not that. Ooh. I mean, not right for there, but oof. That is a good... Oh. This is where PBR shines. These PBR... Oh, that looks spiffy. That looks real spiffy McGiffy. Yeah, boy. Haha, that is sharp. Oh, I like that. Like the one time I have reason to use these large rocks and they look perfect. Hello, John. Glad that you could join us. Okay, we're going to do Spline Road to dirt. RY guy, it solves the age-old dilemma of loops are cool because you could run trains continuously, but they aren't realistic. Yep, exactly. That's a key piece of it, is that my train is realistically going in a loop, as it would. That's going to be interesting to figure out if I can make that work with the PBR textures, but I like the road. So we'll try to make that work. Although, maybe I don't want the grass? Kind of do, though. But yeah, proof that there's a prototype for everything. I can say that I have this way of having a realistic loop, and that makes me happy. And at the end of the day, model railroading is all about what makes you happy. No, now that rock texture is becoming a little too obvious. Let's go back to the mud textures, see what we can do with that. That ground rubble is kind of nice. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna put a little bit more of that in there. See, even without the tree, we'll put a tree in there. But even without it, that looks sharp. And I do want to put a tree. I do like the idea of having something that kind of visually hides that curve a little bit. Do I want to make it a pine? Probably not. I mean, that's an interesting look. But it dwarfs the lighthouse, so I think we want to go with something a bit smaller. Too small and too leafy green? Oh, I know what I want. I want a cash tan. Yeah. Like... Although that is a bit big. But that's the kind of tree I want. Yeah, that's the general look, and just oof. Also big. And then the other cash tans are like nothing like the first one, but I like the darker leafy green of it. That's an interesting tree. I kind of want to put that in the corner here, although then it looks kind of close to this. I don't know. Maybe a few... Oh, yeah. Maybe a few of these over here? To kind of suggest that there's a little bit of force that goes off in that direction. Rocket tree? Maybe it looks a little too odd on its own. I don't know that it's a good standalone tree. That's a nice model. Bit too wide. Oh yeah, these are all 25-meter trees. No wonder 15-meter. That's a bit more like it. Yes, there we go. That fills in a nice gap in that scene. Even if it's maybe a bit too close for this blacksmith shop, I am not too concerned about that. I like that. I like that a lot. What do you guys think of what we've come up with here? I think the goal being we want something that looks kind of windswept but is transitioning a little bit more inland as we go from right to left. And we'll want to put a crossing there. And I have to think of what we've got. Because I feel like I've come across some really good wood crossings in recent history. Key is what's going to look good on a grade. Like that looks nice for a straight piece of track. But definitely not for a curve like that. So, oh, I think these are the ones I was looking at earlier. Yep, there we are. That is what I remembered having. These nice wood crossings. There we are. Yep. Now we need our crossing signs. Hopefully I've got something relatively old school queued up. Austin and Maine, but I like how those look. Ah, that is classy. That is classy. I'm happy with that. But see, now if we kind of zoom in on this, if you will, or move our heads closer, that feels like a self-contained scene. In fact, if we put some grass down, I think it's going to look even better. I think I have some zoo. Oh, somebody released some new grass recently. I just have to remember what that grass is called. Oh, right. It's not showing the grass because I have to change the environment from winter to summer. There we go. Okay. And then it'll show what the grass is. Yep, there we go. That'll work. Oh, this song reminds me. So, I don't know how many of you guys listen to Spotify, but they do this thing called Spotify Wrapped, where it shows you what your listening preferences were for the entirety of the year. And my number one genre of music was medieval folk, which is very on brand for me. My number one artist, though, was Adele. But that stems from the fact that I was, with her new album having come out, I was listening to her old ones, because I'd never actually listened to the albums in their entirety. And who knew? Adele's full-length albums are pretty good, and you should check them out. Most obvious point probably ever. Again, you come for the pre-visualization and stay for the commentary on Adele albums. Alright. But I am very happy with what we've accomplished here in the first almost hour. Because now we've got this kind of... If we're looking towards this way, towards the White House Lighthouse, we've got this nice windswept, atmospheric, open scene that I love the look of this. You know, I think that if we weren't doing this as an HO layout, I think it would be a really nice 009 scale layout. You know, where it's N scale track, but the N scale track is narrow gauge. I think this could look really good as 009. Like, really good. And then the fact that the radii are really tight is not a deal breaker. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. What do you guys think? You enjoying this? You getting something out of this? I think the takeaway is from something like this is that you've got two ways of viewing this kind of inside outside, and the inside here is so different from the outside of the curve. And you could really play that up in a lot of different ways depending on what you're modeling. That is going to be that for there. So let us move our attention to this. So this is going to be down on the boardwalk. And I think I have some assets that might help us out here. A lot of buildings. Did save a lot of buildings. Oh, yeah, let's maybe move that boat inland too. What do we think of this boat? I like this boat. It might be too tall to fit under the bridge, but if you're not actually putting it that close to the bridge, then you can't tell that. I like the idea of maybe this harbor. Maybe we'll fill up this harbor with a bunch more boats to make it look kind of a different type of busy, as opposed to this harbor where we're giving it room for the schooner and presumably room to travel under the bridge here. Something like that. I like that. Alrighty, as we are coming up on the hour, I am going to be taking a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to tackle this scene, so don't go anywhere on Great Train Layouts Live. And we're back here on Great Train Layouts Live, and we are going to make the boardwalk a thing. So now I'm looking for if we have some kind of wooden paths, wooden walkways, that kind of thing. I might have set one aside, or I might have to, well, that's going to be useful for here. Because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put two... I have to lock that. But I'm going to put... I like the idea of having a couple more of these. And if I put one here and then another one there, I'm going to lock this one to dig holes for now. I'm not going to need dig holes. But that way, I can do detail scenes around this without impacting the actual layer underneath. That looks maybe a bit better. But that way then we can also put one elsewhere. I have to figure out how to connect them. But I like the idea of having this really built up. You know, one of the things that I was thinking about today was... Well, no, I don't want to spoil that. You'll see what I was thinking about, because I accidentally clicked on Anthony and Trainsy, and it took me on a bit of a nostalgic trip. Oh, yeah, like so. And then if we put it like this, and here, and we lower it like so, And then rotate it like that. That looks like a thing. And then maybe stick this one out a bit longer. Then it looks... Yeah. Looks like it's supposed to be a thing. Meanwhile... Maybe I have something over here of this sort that can... Yeah, what was I using for over here? Oh, RC wharf spline. Yep, that would be pretty much exactly what I'm trying to do. So... Yes. That is pretty much exactly what I'm trying to do. Right down to the fact that I can kind of curve it, maybe? Question mark? Except I can't appear to straighten it. Interesting. Is that really true? Yep, I can't straighten that. So I'll just split the splines then. Yeah, I'll figure that one out. But we're definitely going to have one that starts here and ends about here. And then just lower that down. That here. Oh, right. I have to just height by way of this. Yes. That looks good. And then we'll get the height that that is at. Oh, except it might be a little bit off because it's... Nope. Well, we'll try that height and see if we need to adjust it. Yeah, we'll need to raise it a bit. Because I want those tracks to be embedded in the pier. So we will raise this up. Just so that we have it level with the... Yeah, like that. Oh, except it's got that... Interesting. It's got this end on it, which I don't like. And I'm guessing the other end does too. If the other end doesn't actually have an end, then I could put it... No, I can't put it backwards because... No start. Oh, wait. That end doesn't have a... But it's backwards because if I put it this way... Yeah, it isn't going to work like that. Unless there's another one that I can use. Quick shopping trick. RC wharf. Let's see. No. Fine. Oh, I see where he got it from, and I see what he did. Okay. Let us search wharf splines. That might be the way to do it. So yeah, this is the original wharf spline. That has ends on both sides. This is a narrower version of that. But there are others out there. It's just a question of how they are and if they have that stuff. I don't want to let the perfect get in the way of the good. Yeah, because I really like this, but to get it all the way to where the track clears it, which would look nice and allow us to do maybe a little shelter there. Now we've completely closed in our harbor. Interesting. Interesting predicament. Let's see if we have some fixed object wharfs that may allow us to get around this. Maybe some lieutenant wharfs. Please tell me somebody got that. Oh, I like the buoy. That's a random thing, but I like it. Probably needs to be in a little more open of an area, so... maybe here? I don't know how practical it is there, but it's a nice buoy. So we'll keep it for what it is. Oh, we can fix that up pretty quickly. Oh, that is a nice scene. Let's see what we have. Sapwood and dock is nice, but kind of not the right dimensions. That's wharf one, which I was using before. Skagway wharf, which is way too big. Yeah, I did look at a lot of wharf buildings and the like for figuring out what to do for this build. For the time being, we are going to sacrifice the lip that provides by way of turning this 180. So we don't get the cool looking edge, but at least that way then the track won't be sticking out. And I think that's kind of what we got to do. And then I got to raise it to the right height. To about there. And then... I kind of like the idea that it temporarily goes out on this bridge that isn't supported, but then it's kind of like, why do you have that out in the open? The challenge of getting just the right building and so forth. It's like, this is so close to what I want, and yet, ... Hi, White Star, good to see you. Well, going pretty well. We've got our first scene done, and now we're working on what's going to be probably our main go-to for the rest of tonight, which is trying to get this scenery nice and closed up. And we're working on this wharf and trying to find the right kind of asset for it. Because we have the right kind of wharf asset, except it is completely backwards from what I need. Like, it's perfect right up to the part where it blocks in the track. But maybe we'll just let that ride because I don't want to soak up too much time trying to find the perfect wharf. And that gives us the gist. So I think that's what we're going to do for now. For now, we're going to have these cars blocked in, although when we run trains, you'll see it's not going to actually matter for the sake of running. And then off camera, I'll figure out how to actually navigate that. Feel like there's something else, RC, that I want to do as far as walkways. Wood piles, wood gangways. The gangways might be nice for something or other, but I don't think that's what we're actually going to be playing with. Oh, those are buildings. RC wood gangway. Kind of not the right thing. Though I kind of want to see what that looks like anyway. As far as having an edge to what we're doing. I mean, that looks cool. Let's bring it in a little more to the track. But that looks like a nice edge. Yeah. Yep, okay. And now we need some type of white water line. Oh, that's an interesting one. Waterfall splines, river splines. Might end up using that for this, as a matter of fact. To make the water less, more deep. Ground splines, nah. I know what I want. I want to let us search wood again. And I think under Sam, I'm gonna find, yep, wooden paths. And I think that will do what we want it to do, which is basically just giving us kind of a fill as far as the between the boardwalk and the buildings. I mean, the wood color doesn't match, but if we could at least get kind of the gist of what we're going for, and then again off camera I'll hone it in as far as actually getting the right, getting matching colors and material and that kind of thing. And then we put this at height of 0 and 0. Nope, that's too thin. Which walkway is this? Yeah, that's 4. A low wooden platform. Interesting, but not what I want. And then we put these at the right height. And now we put this at an angle, so we have something to parallel the bridge. Delete that, I don't need that. And then actually 0.01, so that we don't have Z fighting there. And that will be good enough for now. Gives us enough of a sense of what we're going about here. We'll bring this building a little forward and a little to the side, so it actually just intersects there. Oh, it's the PBR textures that are messing with that. Well, what if we just lower those textures a wee bit, and then we don't have that issue. Yep. There we go. Okay, let us check that out. Obviously, some things to fix in the long run, but I like that. Let's unpause this for a moment just so we can let that smoke disappear. And now, let us go back into the world view mode. Actually, let's go back to the pause mode, because then we don't see those lines. That is pretty. That is very, very pretty. Oh, I like how that looks. And that's a scene that we can appreciate from this angle. I mean, obviously we have the tree right here, so if you were modeling it, you could do without the tree, but I think that's one way. That's one way to go about it. I like that a lot. I am very, very happy with that. And I'm glad that, Squiggy, that you think it was worth the realignment. I think it just, the advantage... Okay, so now we get into why we had to realign this. Because in the original plan, this is a flat backdrop. These two tracks are completely obscured in what's staging. They call it staging, although I wouldn't really consider this staging given the fact that it's in the middle of the route. And also, oddly, in the original track plan, you would have this up against a wall. But I just don't think that works, because if you put it up against the wall, how do you reach those switches? And if you can't reach those switches, I mean, yes, you could pass trains by there, but it sort of removes all utility that has as a runaround. And yes, you could use this as a runaround, but to then have to run around cars here to bring them into the scene here, it seems like more complication than necessary. So that's a little tweak to Mr. Rice's track plan, but just a little one. I think that we're still keeping the spirit of it. The other reason, too, is because with Train Z, a lot of the buildings that are constructed are full. They're full buildings. There's actually not a lot of flats that you can use. So, for me to find smaller buildings is a harder challenge than finding larger buildings. Let's talk about this. So now that this is not a wall, and I would make this a change even if I was building this in real life. I would not make this a wall. I would make this accessible, partially because I think it opens the opportunity to have, wait for it, a train station. Now, I'd originally thought of putting the train station on this side, and that's what this shack is for, and could still be. So I'm kind of cheating, because having this station does take me out of the 4x8. However, I am cheating because this station is specifically designed for the fictional railroad that we're basing this around, which is the... oh, God. Let me just put one of the cars down, and then I can remember what it's going to be called. Sorry, Mike. I know it starts with Umpqua. The Umpqua River Railroad and Navigation. Okay, thank you, passenger car. Now is a good time as well to shout out Trains Forge for supporting this stream. We'll get to see their latest payware offering during playtime. It's a really nice locomotive, and you will have actually seen it in the description or in the thumbnail for this video. But you'll also get to see it running in just a little bit. Okay, we need to line this because that is... Oh, nope. We got that alignment pretty darn on. So yeah, I might have to adjust the edge of the fascia to accommodate the depot. The depot's the only kind of cheat that I'm doing. And again, the track is still fitting in a 4x8. So you could just, you know, ignore all of this if you wanted to. But hey, I think it's worth... We have to do some of that anyway because you can kind of see we're going to have some interesting questions with how to close up this rock wall. In fact, let's do that. Let us close up this rock wall and figure out how this transitions, because obviously we do have... Well, that was easy enough. I like that. Yep. So, it's a little bit odd to be looking at it and see, oh, the rock wall just stops. But if you're viewing it from the outside, I don't think it's as strange as it might first appear. We'll raise the fascia up so that it covers this, or... Actually, probably more likely, we'll take this down a wee bit. Something like that, and maybe covered up with some rocks. So the fascia will go up a bit, but yeah, not quite sure how we'll work that out yet. Double tube fan just had a thought. Be really cool to see 2 or 3 people build this layout and see how each person puts their spin on it. All the layouts would be similar but tweaked. Just that little bit. That is a good idea, and just led to another idea, which I'll save for a rainy day. But yes, you're absolutely right. It would, in general, and I'm not sure if you're talking about building it in a sim or building it in real life, but either way, to have the challenge of, here's your track plan. You cannot deviate from the track plan at all. Like, you cannot add or remove track. This is the track that has to be here at the elevations it has to be. But what you do scenically, era-wise, go to town. I mean, I could see, for example, completely stripping the theme of this and making it maybe like a steel railroad, like blast furnaces and steel, very industrial, no water. It would be a totally different thing with the exact same track. That could be a very fun thing. So, we've got our renamable station, and we are going to name this station Loleta, because that is where we are. And if that doesn't look cool, then I don't know what it does. That looks legit. In fact, it looks so legit. So we've got this small water tower here. I kind of want to put a bigger water tower there. Although, admittedly, I don't immediately have one that comes to mind, but let's see if I can find something that looks nice next to the station, because why not? Yeah, that's the one we used previously. Water mill, wood and steel water tank. What does that look like? Well, it's not railroad related, but it's cool enough that I'm going to keep it. I'm going to put it over here, because that just... Maybe that'll satisfy my need for a water tower. Yep, we'll do that. Okay, so everything else here, I don't want to go too crazy on the scenery on the sides for a couple of reasons. One is because, again, I feel like this is already kind of going beyond the bounds of a 4x8. But I also don't feel the need to have it be that full of stuff. I like the idea that we can breathe a little bit. If we're saying that this is a walkable space, then this is a nice room to just appreciate your train close up as an assembled train. Because by the time it comes here, it might be assembled, but it might be starting to be taken apart for switching. And then let us do some soil, ground, texture-y type things. Also because definitely wouldn't be seeing a lot of grass next to those buildings. Because we're kind of transitioning out of the wharf. In fact, we might just be doing a lot of that soily type of thing. But I'm going to try to vary up the grass a wee bit. So it's not too monotonous and uniform. Okay, that's kind of a nice thing. And that's kind of not a nice thing. There we go. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And then let us add some more of those grass blinds because they looked so cool the last time. A little thick. Ugh. Now to find if I think it's IDS. Yep. Oh man, these grass textures that came in from IDS on the download station a little while ago, they are nice. I think I could. Oh, there we go. Yep, that is going to be thin enough to fit in here, and matches the grass that's over there enough. Yep. I like that. That feels nice and legit. And honestly, you wouldn't have to have it be a strip this wide, but I'm just making the most of the space that we have, given that we're probably going to have to push the fascia back to this yellow line, but we're going to make it look complete for tonight. Yeah, Mike, those grass textures, the IDS ones are, whoever that person is, they released, grasses, they release some really killer, forest backdrops, which we may end up using, but they're actually more for closer proximity trees as opposed to a wider backdrop like that. Man, now that I'm zooming out, what do you guys think of this? I'm really happy with how this is looking. I'm really, really happy with how this is coming together. And man, we got 40 minutes left to go. We are cooking with gas. And that's good because actually I want to talk about this cassette and I want to get into figuring this out. Anything else I want to do over here? Maybe leave... Do I want to leave a little bit of room for horses and stuff like that? Maybe, but I'll worry about that later. Right now, I am content with what I've got. I feel like I want to put some... I mean, this is getting into the weeds. I wasn't even trying there. But I'm actually... Do I want weeds? I mean, maybe? I'm kind of... I mean, the JVC ones just... They don't really work these days. Oof. No. What? Oh, I know what I want. I know I want it. I think there's some cusps that are pretty. Yeah. That is what I'm not that specific one, but there are some very short cusp things that we can probably work to be kind of weeds, like so. How much do I want of weeds? I think I do, though. I like the idea of having some weeds in here because we've got so much brown and gray that wherever we can inject a little bit of green, I think it's worth doing. Now, I like those, but they do look a bit too uniform. So I'm going to try to vary one of them to be like that. Which now they don't all look the same. And then do I just keep them going all the way to the back? Maybe, maybe not. That is going to be the question. Yeah, you know, I like having those bushes because when we look at it from this perspective, Now all of a sudden we have more green in the scene when you're looking at eye level across the way. And it's such a different take than this scene here. Like, this is a very different vibe and atmosphere from what we have right across the harbor. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Now I'm looking at this going, do I want to have some grass and weedy kind of things on this to make it look sort of mossy? Maybe a bit, but maybe just like a very small bit. I don't want to get too carried away with that. I think that, I mean, what's nice about what we've accomplished is now everything is covered. So we are good today. We are really doing good today. I need an old truck sitting there. Well, I'm kind of envisioning this as very early 1900s, so not a lot of old vehicles, because not a lot of vehicles, period. He says, and then it's like, oh yeah, and then I put that truck there. What truck is that anyway? Oh, Dodge Brothers. So kind of early 1900s. Yeah, I'll probably leave the truck. But admittedly, I do like changing up eras and making things different eras. So let's work on this, because this obviously needs some attention. We've got a few things going on here, which is to say we need to... it could be interesting. We need to get this to have a bridge for this road that is leaving town, and then it goes back to this kind of track. But we need a bridge that can curve. This will be doable. But actually, it'll be doable, but we should look at maybe doing it. Interesting to compare those two track types. With this kind of track, and then trying to smooth out the curve to just about there. Curve doesn't have to be perfect, because we are using very short wheelbase kind of stuff. And now I could say that I could speak from experience on this point, because when building my Greenfield Village right behind me, so 2.5 feet, so I knew I would have to put in some tight radii curves, and I was not disappointed. I was able to make it work with 12-inch radius curves, but in HO that is tight. But that said, what am I running on? I'm running an American 440, and I'm running these Bachmann, and actually I think you can see them, but they're probably pretty small. Let me grab one. So this is where it's good to think about, what are you going to actually run on your layout? Ergo, if you're talking about running tight curves, can you get away with it? So for building Greenfield Village behind me, I knew that I wanted to run these cars. These are Bachmann, Jackson and Sharp inspired amusement park cars. And I looked at these and thought, I bet it's possible to make them work around 12-inch radius curves. And so I tested them out by way of, I designed the layout in AnyRail. Then I pre-visualized it, and then when I was happy with the previs, I printed out the track plan in AnyRail, which meant that I could shape a 12-inch radius curve. When I tested with these cars, they fit, but it was really tight, and what I realized is that underneath the frame, the wheel was rubbing against the frame, and you're probably not going to see that in full detail on YouTube, but take my word for it when I say that these... whatever the inner wheel was on the curve would be rubbing against a metal part of the frame. That said, it was very easy to unscrew the frame from the body, and then I could just file it down, and it doesn't compromise the structure at all. And now these cars run around 12-inch diameter, 12-inch radius curves. Point being, when it comes to looking at what we're doing here tonight, as long as you're tested out in advance, so once you've done the pre-visualization in the sim, just take a piece of flex track, take your rolling stock, measure the curve, and just try it and make sure it's going to work. If it works, it works. And you'll see a little bit of that with what we choose motive power and rolling stock wise tonight. Ron says I put different vehicles in separate layers. That's one way to do it. By the time I'm getting to the vehicles, I'm honestly looking forward more and more to the release, and so that, because otherwise I'd get into kind of super detailing to the point that I would never release a thing. So I try to be cautious of that. All right. So we've got this road coming here, and then it's going to just curve and end right about there. This is going to be... So this is, again, where we would have a backdrop by the original design. We're not doing a backdrop here, so it has to be visible. So I think we're going to... You know, I was thinking of having it as a hill looking where we look up, kind of like this. But then I thought, hey, we have a lot of the track being the tallest thing in the scene. What if we make the land around it taller than the track? And so we're going to go with that approach. We're going to try making the land taller so that then you actually, if you're looking at it from this standpoint, the train might even be hidden. And if not by the land, then maybe by some trees that we can place right on the edge of the thing. Oh, because, right, we're going to expand outward a bit anyway, so we'll have this to play with. So, yes, let us do that as a thing, because I like having that as a thing. I like that as an idea. Now, the key is going to be to make sure there's enough room for overhang for the cars, but I think that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Man, that is steep when it comes to how this game handles textures, but I think we can make that work okay. Actually, it will be okay because it will be invisible, because this rock wall is going to continue from here. Oh, wrong way. To here, and then it goes to about there, and we'll set it at a height of 0 just so that way the grass disappears, and boom. Now the land is just that little bit taller, and then combine that with some trees. We'll turn up the sensitivity a wee bit. Yeah. Something along those lines. Now, all of a sudden, we're alluding to these mountains that I think the backdrop is going to emphasize even more. The only key is that it has to work from this view as well, but I think it will, actually. I do think that it will. And we can make this kind of slowly transition down so that from where the land comes into play here, it's sort of not a perfectly flat. Oh, I do like how that looks. I am quite happy with how that looks. Too much. Now it has that bowl of, well, that's an interesting viewpoint. I'll have to put in a camera in there so you can watch the trains go through the window. But it has that interesting bowl effect of kind of making the scene feel contained. And now, raising this up further. Trying to make sure that we hide all of the seams of that rock wall spline. Get it to fit nicely, which I think that does. Yeah. I'm really, really happy with that. And we could take this. We could take the road and actually extend it out to here. Don't know why my eye is so itchy. Then the rock wall goes there. Yeah, that looks right. And then just increasing all of this up to make it feel a little less like it's a super sharp edge, but that it actually moves out to somewhere. Has a little bit more depth to it. And this is before we even get to adding trees and stuff, which will be in just a moment. Breakfast of Champions, Bowl of Model Rarity. Yep. That is certainly one way to look at it. And now, cover it with some mossy grass as sort of a base layer of things. And then we will we'll look for a PBR forest backdrop, because I think that's gonna look a little bit more natural for the thing. Now let's see about some of those cashtan trees that are super big, but will look really nice on that hill. Yep, that's the stuff I'm talking about. Ooh, that is the stuff. And then, what else was there after the cashtan? There were those, and then I think it was wasn't the Kid Paris, it was the cleanse, wasn't it? Yep. Now, that, and here's part of what I like about this. I think one of the things that I wasn't sure of as I was looking at the layout before building today is the bridge. I felt like the bridge just had this sort of it stood out too much. I mean, yes, it is a center point, but I didn't want it to feel like it's towering above the land. So my idea was to try to make it blend in more. And what I like with what I'm seeing here is having these trees. Now when we look at the bridge, it doesn't feel like it's gigantic. It puts it more to proportion of everything else. But it still has a nice atmosphere to it. I think the schooner still looks good in the foreground in comparison to the trees in the background. And that's making the schooner stand out, I think, is very important for the context of the scene. We'll probably put some bushes in there just to make it so that they... that's a bit too small. Let's see. How about... that's a starting place for some. Yes. Because that way then we can fill the kind of undergrowth. That's a bit bright, though. Oh, I like that. Can I use that somewhere? Maybe. Actually, that'll probably fit over here once we expand that out a bit. Close. Not sure about that. We were not putting that there. We could put them in that corner. Sometimes you come across a thing, and this is true in Model Rarity. You come across a thing and you're like, how do I make it fit the layout that I'm already building? And sometimes you just have to look at it and go, nope, I can't really do it in this case. Yeah, I think that'll be... Yeah, that actually... And that also helps to hide the seam with the rock face. Yeah, that's... That makes me very happy. And then we put this maybe over here and put it down. Yeah, that way we're just hiding in more of the holes. I mean, yes, we'll have this... We'll have a wall here with the backdrop, and that'll help further. But the more that we can hide things in the foreground, the better. Let us use that soil texture to just clean up this bit. Because... Oh... Like that. Oh, that looks good. That looks nice. I am really, really happy with that. We'll add that. So yeah, obviously we have to clean up the splines on this edge. But that looks like a scene. And we're in the middle of the water. Like it's a scene, and it's not even a scene that if you built this in a physical in 3D, you'd appreciate outside of just sticking your cell phone there. But man, just knowing that it is a scene and that it is something you can play with that's cool. Okay. And 20 minutes to go before playtime. We are really doing a great job tonight, guys. So now we take this part of the rock face and we continue it this way. And that's going to be that edge. Which also gives this really cool viewing window into, especially once we put the bridge in place, of how you look into the city from this side. I got really quiet. I haven't touched my... I'll bring my microphone closer to me. I haven't... I'm looking at my levels. Everything should be okay. Ron Paladin writes, one thing I'm realizing from this, backdrops do not have to be attached to the layout. Painting backdrops onto the wall behind an aisle also works when you're looking across the layout. Exactly, Ron. And so the reason that I'm doing this here is partially because out of necessity, because this backdrop is just too big to place super close. But even if it weren't, so let's talk about backdrops. So if we were doing this per its original design, and we put the backdrop right here. So this is the hypothetical doing it, building it the way Iain Rice had drawn it, which is your backdrop is right against the edge. Although that's not even accounting for the fact that you'd have a backdrop there, but let's just stick with it. This looks good. I mean, it does look good, and it actually does work from the standpoint of looking at a scene this way. But then you're robbing yourself from being able to see the layout from this perspective, because of the way this spline is not my backdrop. This is an asset that I created for Kootenai Lake Navigation Company, which is available on greattrainlayouts.com. If you go to greattrainlayouts.com, you can download a number of the builds that you see here on the live streams. I guess I should probably also name drop the Patreon, which is patreon.com/theroundhouse. For as little as $1 a month, you're going a long way to supporting Great Train Layouts live, as well as the Roundhouse podcast. You get early access to episodes of the Roundhouse, and you also get early access to some of the layouts that we built here before they go up on the website. But back to backdrops. If we put this aside for the moment, and if we hide this for the time being, if we hide the ground. So right now we have this backdrop at ground level. But if we lower it below ground level, as in, or essentially you're painting your wall green. This is just kind of the quick and dirty way of doing it. But now all of a sudden when you're looking even off the bottom of the bottom edge of your layout, you're still seeing trees, even if you're looking down. So yes, absolutely one should consider, if you're building a layout, and especially if you're doing the classic 4x8, and it's not against a single wall, but it's in the middle of the room, then think about painting or detailing or doing something to your walls, even just painting them blue, so that then when you're looking from any angle, you have a backdrop. There's always trains in Teton Valley. You could do removable backdrops. Also true. Many approaches, many ways to go about it. Alrighty. So there's two last things that I'm looking to accomplish today. Bridge over here, final detailing of this scene. So let's talk about this cassette. Let's talk about what you guys would like to see for this, because this is more of a how would you like to play with the layout question rather than a how to design it kind of thing. So in Iain Rice's track plan, this section is behind a backdrop, so there's actually the way it's designed is that the backdrop, like this one, actually hides the track, like so. So then you can access your train from here and then replace it, and either removing it whole or just you'd have shelves nearby and you could take the equipment off and put new equipment there. So I could hide it behind a backdrop. I kind of like it being visible. The question is, do you want this to be visible from all four sides? I don't know if this is really a breathtaking scene. I mean, it's an interesting view, but I'm kind of inclined to put this against the wall, which would mean we have our backdrop here, but the track is visible. We could put some trees and things to kind of make it transition to disappearing. Rudy, is CJ incorrect about me being quiet or about... I'll turn the music down, but the volume on this is all the way up. I'll have to go into Windows settings and turn myself up a bit. But the question I'm going to pose to you while I'm changing my settings is, very briefly, this staging strip right here. Do you want me to block it off from being visible from the rest of the layout? Do you want me to have the backdrop right behind it as you see it now, or should it be visible from all angles? So you can answer that while I take a moment to make sure that my microphone is at a good level. Okay, are you hearing me any better now? I just turned it up a few notches. So that's question number one I'm going to pose to you. While you're answering that, let's find a bridge that we can use. And I kind of want to use something that's a deck style, because this is such a high view, and because we've already got a girder bridge there. Bridge track. Well, this actually will probably be useful for having a deck, so let's grab this. Actually, I think the whole BDW system will probably be valuable, but we'll get this into place first, which is, hey, we have a bridge deck. On a tight curve, probably be doing better with a 2-track one. Yeah, probably would be doing better with the 2-track one, although there's a little bit of a overhang. Not the most realistic, but I could live with that. Bridge deck for a track. What does this look like? I'm worried that this looks kind of low res. Ugh, not what I want. Bridge kits. Oh, that gives me an idea for a for a kind of girder bridge where the girders hang underneath. Does that look good is another question. But let's start by exploring it. So we move this to the outside of the deck. And then we'll just take the height down a wee bit and see how happy that makes me. And over here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, I think I like that. I like it as a subtle bridge rather than as a, oh, look at me, I'm huge bridge. Although I'm tempted to replace that. Yeah, I think that girder might match that color better. So I'm going to do a quick replacement on that. Yay for the bulk asset replace. So we've got this girder that we're going to replace with this girder. And yes, that is what I want to do. And yes, that is... Oop. That is looking good. Almost makes me think I could put it above, but I do like it hanging below. So I think I'm going to stick to my guns on making it hang below. And then I grab the height from whatever that is, which is a height of 5.86. Apply it to here. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff. Yep. Definitely that type of girder bridge. I could use a trestle parrot, but the thing is, I'm not... it's such a small gap. I mean, yes, I could just have a trestle that goes over the gap. But I feel like I default to trestles a lot of the time. I like that girder bridge. That's what I'm going with. Okay, so to my earlier question about what do you think I should do for the backdrop. Well, Hiron is saying it's too loud, and CJ is saying that it's a bit better. So I'm getting different feedback. I'm going to turn the volume down a bit more. And hopefully somewhere in there everybody agrees it's a reasonable amount. Yeah, so staging track looks a bit artificial. Consider hiding it. Parrot, I'm not really sure if there's a way to make it look good while hiding it. Blend in the corner next to the structure to hide the layout to the staging transition. Does the girder fit the 1900s era? Or how much the railroad could afford? Good question. I don't know. I feel like girders go back to 1900s. I'm going to leave it for the time being. It looks good, and maybe I'll change it after tonight. But I'm happy with it for the time being. So yeah, let's look at this thing. So actually, I have a thought. I do have a thought. Remember how I mentioned that the person who made the grasses also came out with these really good forest backdrops? Well, guess what? Those forest backdrops might be the thing that just save our bacon, because if you take a look at Exhibit A, you will see one of the IDS forest backdrops, which actually looks... Sometimes these transient forest backdrops don't look that good up close. I mean, yeah, if we're zooming that close, it's not going to look good. But from a... I actually really like that. So we even have the choice of whether or not we show the rock wall or not. And do I have an opinion on that at the moment? Yeah, the rock wall looks kind of uniform. I kind of want to hide the rock wall. So we'll need to find a way to transition between it, which is basically going to mean some very tall, skinny trees. Gee, have we encountered tall, skinny trees previously on this show? Maybe. Maybe, just maybe. Now, obviously, I don't think we can do it just with these guys, because that's a bit too obvious of a transition, but what if we plant a few of them? Do they work as kind of... Oh! Let's do some pines. Maybe that's the way we can make that work. Because pines are tall, skinny trees. Now, their proximity to the town is perhaps a bit unrealistic, but, you know, we have to make compromises like this when it comes to model railroading, unfortunately. And we do have other, there are other options for backdrops that we can use. We don't have to use the deciduous trees. So I can make that a little shorter so that they don't look all the same. Okay, let's see what our other options are as far as the IDS forests are concerned. Because I like the idea of making it forest, because now all of a sudden, rather than having this brick, this rock wall, now there's depth to the scene in general. Show the rocks along the road, but hide it behind the engine shed. Yeah, let's try that. This is why I love having you guys along for the ride, because you can give me advice, input, feedback, and I think that we learn so much when we share ideas together. Yeah, you guys are absolutely... I mean, you guys know your stuff. Yeah, that... Yes. That looks nice. And I like how it creates a viewing window between the two. I might play around a little bit more with the types of trees, but now that doesn't look like a repetitive rock wall. And now there's depth to behind the engine shed. Oh, awesome. Now let's have a look at some of our choices for backdrops and figure out what's going to work the best for having those trees. These are some awesome backdrops. If you are into Trainsy, you should really grab these. I like this, but it's too short for what we're looking to do. Because I don't know that I want the bushy trees. There's quite a few of these bushy tree ones. I like having the ones that are... No. Well, I say no, but do I really mean no? Again, the benefit of experimenting and trying different things. Actually, that kind of looks really good, I think. What do you guys think? Let me just delete that so it's not distracting us. Now all of a sudden, there's a bit of kind of shadow and, a bit of shadow and depth. I like that. That is a nice transition to being hidden. Now, obviously, if you're staging a train here, you're going to see your train parked here, but this isn't a staging yard in the conventional sense. I mean, if you're running this, your train, either you're going to have this as a cassette and you'll just remove it, or, and what I might end up doing, again, as a kind of modification to the design, albeit a slight one, is having a portion of track out on this, on a sort of ledge. Let me get rid of those other splines. So this wouldn't be a rock wall. This would be like on wood. So this isn't going to be scenic at all. But that way then you can drive your train into and out of the scene. And I think that's probably the way I'm going to build this. If you look at the PDF that's in the description of the video, you'll see that actually there is a sort of how the layout could be expanded illustration. It's a track plan, but it's not a fully detailed track plan. But this is something that he designed with the idea that then when you're ready to expand, you've got this nice lead that can go elsewhere. I mean, truth be told, you could also expand this edge to a lot of choices. Let's make that not one of the ballast tracks, just because then that way it's not as distracting. We are distracting. I am on a roll with you guys tonight. So we're gonna go dirty gray terrain ballast. Dirty gray ballast, but no terrain. Yep, that is what I wanted. So we're gonna make this about yay long, because I actually kind of like how that backdrop looks. We might end up changing it for the final thing, but for the time being, that's good. And so what we're gonna do is narrow Elka trees in the 22-25 meter range. Yeah, we'll put some of those back here. And then I'm going to go back to that. Last question I'm going to ask you guys for the night, as far as your opinion on what you think I should do. So I am tempted to keep the design to just what Iain Rice had planned. And that is what we have done so far. Every track is in place, and it all functions as it should. But I did think to myself, now, if we are running this with a tank engine, then, and this will be a quick preview to what we're going to get into in a few minutes, which is playing with the trains. If we are running a tank engine such as the lovely Buttercup, this is an engine that obviously does not need a turntable. This is an engine that can go both ways and look realistic. However, we have a new toy to play with today, and that is the Prairie. This is also created by Mike. And as you can see, it's another URR&N locomotive. Oh, and, well, I don't want to get too far down the path of what makes the Prairie cool. We'll see that in a moment. But, so if we're just running this with Buttercup, or if you were running it with a Shay or a Climax or a Heisler, you don't need a turntable. However, we have this really nice tender engine that, despite being a tender engine, kind of looks okay on these tight turns. Now, whether or not it would actually work depends on who manufactured it and so on and so forth. But let's pretend that this is H-O. Let's pretend that that engine can actually navigate the tight turns we have. It can obviously run tender first to exit the scene. Or we could put a turntable right in here. Which gives us something to do with this space, which I otherwise have not really done anything with. I mean, arguably, I could maybe put a couple of trees in this space to just give the sense that there is something to the land to the right. So I think what we're looking at is either some kind of shrub or trees, some sense of continuation, or we're doing a turntable. What do you guys think? Turntable gives the ability to turn tender engines. No turntable, we're staying true to the original spirit of the plan. Your votes. While you vote, last big scenery item we're going to take care of today is just putting in this this wood backdrop. And how do I want to do that? I think I want to do it with this. Because I've built one before, but admittedly it's been a little while since I've last built a floating. No, that's crossing boards. That's pretty thin. would this be wide enough? Not really. I mean, I could lay a few of them, but I'm trying to go with like a really wide one that could just... nope, that's the floor. Footpaths. Fences. Okay, for tonight we're going to use this. Subject to change, but for tonight it will work. That way it has that staging look without being too intrusive into the scene. Subject to change. Yeah. Okay, that'll work for tonight. That will likely get swapped out for something else. But at least that way we have something that is clearly a staging section that allows us to go into and out of the scene, which I like that. I do. And then I don't think I flipped it on the other side, so I think... Yeah, no, I think we're just gonna go with the distant trees being the distant trees. I mean, I do like the... I will say that I like the saturation on my backdrop better than this. But do I want to just put this on the backdrop like so or not? Yeah. It's a little loosey-goosey, but I like my saturation better. I'll probably end up designing some type of custom backdrop for this, where in the long run we have... so this will go to about here, just to kind of mimic the fact that we have a walkway, because I could just put it right next to it, but I want to... That'll work for tonight's play. I'm happy with that. We'll just lower this a little bit to get the mountains to line up. And that's not half bad. And honestly, the trees even kind of hide the seam. Long run, I'll probably design some kind of custom backdrop for it. I'm not sure. Your vote. So, your votes on should there be a turntable. Double Tube Fan says no. Ron says yes. Or as always, Trains and Teton says no, and Tater Salad says no. Okay, no turntable. So then, our last little itty bitty bit of scenery, we're just gonna put down a couple of trees and shrubs. Boats on land. I know what you mean. Maybe I'll play with that off camera. That feels like a scene that's gonna require detail, and we are at 9 o'clock, so I'm thinking the detailed stuff will have to wait for off camera. But once I have put in my final bit of shrubs... nah, not these guys. They're too bright. That's kind of interesting. It's always tricky to get the trees that have the right level of saturation and don't look super bright. Maybe a clen? No, that was a clen. Because this just now, all of a sudden, I feel like we're dominating the landscape with this clen. Sosnas. Maybe Sosnas. The Sosnas have a... yep. When in doubt, go for the Sosnas. Because the Sosnas can give you that variety of tree without being super demanding. But it just... not feeling it. But let me see what happens if I take some of this grass from the... But I like the windswept... I know what I want to do. I think I want to just continue this kind of windswept-y thing, and then maybe that will kind of negate the need for Soil, ground rubble, 61 pebbles, maybe? No, that's what I used. This mud one, I think, is what I'm looking for. Yep, there we go. Because, yeah, there could be something with trees, could be something with boats. We'll come back to that later. This will work for now. So, before we get to the play, let us take a final look at what we got here. So here is the Loleta and Mad River. Ignore that for a moment. Oh, there we are. Okay. So this is the Loleta and Mad River, as designed or as pre-visualized by yours truly. And you can see that it really is a great plan. This is very creative. I think it's really unique in how it has this track come down, right down the middle, very bold approach, and then you have the scenes on the side. I'll try downloading that QID that you recommended, Parrot. I'll give that a quick shot. But I think that this is something that I would love to see somebody someday trying to build. Okay. Because it's cool. Like, I like the atmosphere. This is a layout where we could have a lot of fun with atmosphere. I could see getting at the fog machine and having a lot of fun with the photos, especially when it comes to stuff like this. Oh, you want to talk about bringing out the fog machine? Actually, we don't even have to treat that as a hypothetical. If we go to the environment, and let's set it with early morning light, and let's make that fog go a-boom. Look at that. Now we've got all this moodiness in here. Oh, that looks nice. That looks really, really nice. So, you want to play with some trains, guys? You want to see what this layout's capable of in terms of its play value? Let's have some fun. So, to do that, we are going to need our train, and we are going to need something that feels very fish and very coast related. That's right, we are going to have the Flying Kipper with Henry. Right? That's what we're doing, right? Okay. So, okay, funny story about this is that for the stock we're actually using, the URRNN has its own version of the Flying Kipper, but I'd accidentally saved. Well, not accidentally, but I'd created. I was doing some Thomas stuff a while back, and so I'd created my own Flying Kipper. But you know what? This actually looks pretty boss, if I do say so myself. Like, not gonna lie, like that, you know, if you've got kids and you want something to do with the Bachman Hornbys, or the Bachman Hornbys, the Bachman or Hornby Thomas trains, I mean, come on, doesn't that look cool? So the thing that I was going to mention earlier is how, with Thomas the Tank Engine, one of my favorite episodes is the Flying Kipper from season 1. Look it up on YouTube. Even if you've kind of insisted that you've outgrown Thomas, look up the Flying Kipper. The model work in that episode, the sets, the smoke effects are beautiful. And there's a nice one also from season 4 called Fish that's also centered around the Flying Kipper. Those are episodes to look up. And you got to give props to the Thomas the Tank Engine fans who are 3D modelers, because my God, that is crazy amounts of detail, and they have it so that you can actually modify which way the eyes are looking in these models. It's kind of insane. I know we got to get to the actual thing, but bear with. Maybe it's not in that part. There is I know where it is. View details. There's somewhere where you can change which way the eyes look. We won't worry about that now. Point is, this is a layout that can cater to your kids who love Thomas. So we've now that we've established that Thomas has its place to be respected as a modeling endeavor, and I do want to do some Thomas specific layouts in the future. I think that would be fun to try to take track plans and maybe replicate some of the TV series sets in a way that you could actually build a layout. But that is not what we are doing today. Today, we are going to be playing with URR and NStock. So last time we started by playing with the with Buttercup. So today we're going to play with the newest toy from Trains Forge, and that is this Prairie. So we're just going to run tender first on our way out of town, and that is okay, because that is true. Yesterday I was hosting the Virtual Railroad Academy with my friend Casey, and that's on YouTube. Well, the episode is on Twitch, so if you Google search Virtual Railroad Academy or look for Virtual Railroad Academy on Twitch, you'll see our episode that we did yesterday. But it may have made its way to YouTube now. But we were talking about mixed trains in the upcoming game called Railroader, the upcoming train simulator Railroader. So talking about mixed trains, and that is what we are going to do today. We are going to do a mixed train that combines the need to haul passengers with the need to haul fish. I really want to use these boxcars, but we're going to start with something different for our first trip. We'll save these for another go around. We're going to park them over there just so we remember they're there, because we do have some actual express cars. I kind of like the idea of taking the Milk Express car there for a little bit of switching. Do I want to do that or not? Well, maybe not. We'll keep it simple for this first trip, because I kind of want to do 2 round trips depending on how we do with time. So we are going to have the Fish Express cars on the front. And then we'll have a mail car. And we'll have a couple of coaches. As we see here, there's a lot of really nice, there's chair cars and so forth, but what we're looking for is just a basic coach. That's a combine. Do we have a basic coach that we could work with? That's a chair car. I mean, if we're going full bore, we could have the observation car, but that doesn't feel quite in keeping with the mixed train spirit. We'll just do the baggage and combine. But point being that these are cars with longer wheelbases. The baggage is a bit shorter. So this is where, if you want to do tight turns, you lay your track out, you have your cars, and you make sure that they can fit, and you modify them if need be to get you around the corners as you see fit. So we've got our train staged. What we're going to do, we're going to keep this first run really simple, because I have a feeling that we won't finish 2 full runs, but we'll finish the first run, and we'll get into the switching with the second. This first run, we're going to bring the train into town. Actually, maybe let's bring the engine in backwards, and then it'll leave town forwards. Oops. It really wants to... We'll just start it like that and couple them up. So, we're going to bring our train into town backwards. It's going to make a station stop. We're going to take those express... the express fish cars and swap them out for 2 that are ready to go. And then we're going to head out of town. And we're going to keep it a nice, quick, easy, in and out, wham bam. Let us have some fun. So this is the new Prairie model, courtesy of Trains Forge. You can download it from trainsforge.com. Let me know if the sounds get a bit too loud. I'll turn the audio down a wee bit. But, there we are. That is a nice model. We could actually enjoy the interior view as well in the cab. So we can see what it looks like to be hidden behind staging. Oh, there we are emerging. But let's see what it looks like to actually watch as the train goes through the scenery. I'm curious in particular about this. I'm pausing it so I could get my shot lined up. If we look at the scene from this perspective, let's get our view lined up, and then here's the train going over the bridge. Oh, that looks nice. And now let's switch back over to the front. And now here we are rounding the scene by the lighthouse. Oh, I mean, that's a screenshot moment right there. Right there, that's a screenshot moment. And then we're also coming up on another as we go by the crossing. And now let's enjoy our station arrival moment. Also, let us change the switch radius so that we can actually change that switch. Sorry guys, I hate to switch to the boring technical stuff when it comes to Trainsy. Because our switch is set the wrong way, and we have to set it the right way. Oh. So we're going to fast forward. And now we're going to have the switch set the right way. Okay. Take 2 on that station arrival scene. Here we go. Now let's zoom out so I can actually see where I need to make my station stop. And also make sure my switches are set properly so that I go into the right track. There we go. So, there is our mixed train arriving at Port Loleta. Or Loleta. I keep wanting to call it Port Loleta, but all evidence suggests that it is just Loleta. Now that, if I do say so myself, is why we kept that back wall open. Because, you get a whole other flavor of it. The way that we've got these really tall buildings, you can't actually see the harbor at all from here, which maybe you wouldn't want that. Maybe you'd want to take a building out so you can see it. That's the beauty of pre-visualization, is figuring out how are you going to take in this layout. That said, we're in the sim, so we can cheat and we can go above the water, but also if you were viewing this from afar, you'd still presumably have the way. And this is another reason why I didn't agree with his choice to block in this wall, is because if you're going to how do I want to do this? Yeah, we'll do it this way. If you're going to block in this back wall, now reaching these cars on this siding, or cars that you're switching on this siding, becomes so much more difficult, because that's a 4-foot depth. So I really don't know why you would design a 4-foot deep layout if you needed access switches on the far end of that. So yes, mostly a phenomenal design, but the one thing I call into question as to why he would block in this wall and ergo make it harder to reach the switches here. So that said, we fixed it by opening it up on this side. You can see why this prairie is something I wanted to use for this stream. So I was basing this layout around the URN, and largely because of Buttercup, because Buttercup obviously fits how this layout has been designed and the tight radii of turns. But this engine doesn't look out of place because of its short wheelbase. Oh, that is nice. Okay, we've got our other express reefer cars here, so we're going to bring them out, put them on the passing siding, and then we'll bring these cars back in. But yeah, I mean, this scene, this is a scene, guys. This is another one of those things that now I've built it. It's like, now I really want to see somebody build it for real because I want to play with it. I think that it would make for such a great subject of layout. Not the easiest thing to build, I will say. I mean, especially, I'm imagining some custom turnouts are going to have to be built. This is not one I'd want to tackle myself from a difficulty standpoint, but somebody else can figure it out and let me know so I can play it. That'd be perfect. Okay. Now we'll get ourselves situated. Put those cars here. And so yeah, we'll do some fine detailing of this off stream, and then get this up on the website. Hopefully not too long from now. There's a couple of release ideas I have for how this will get released. Obviously have to put in the dig holes, put in the walls so that it looks like a proper train room. But what are your thoughts on this? Feel free, even after this goes live, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this as a track plan. What have you learned, especially if you've learned something from this that you feel is applicable to your own modeling? That's really beneficial for me to know, or what you like me covering. Because my goal here is to, obviously we're looking at track plans that are very specific, but hopefully coming out with lessons that we could take to all of our modeling. And I think that this is a prime example of how you can have essentially an open 4x8 in that there's no scenic divider cutting across the center or anything like that. And it doesn't look like a spaghetti bowl. It doesn't look like a mess. And it still has these contained scenes. You have the contained scene that is the outer harbor. You've got this contained scene of the limestone dump onto the barge, and then obviously contained scene upon contained scene here. I mean, the atmosphere. We're going to have a lot of fun creating screenshots for this. Put some grass on the back so it looks finished for the top shot. Actually, Donald, what we're going to end up doing for the back, I mean, I'll just, for the sake of tonight, yeah, I could just go in and quickly put some grass back here. Let me get the green texture. Then it's a little less distracting, but what we're actually going to end up doing is this terrain is going to be completely removed. So it's going to be a hole, and you're going to see the floor. So, yeah. That makes it a little less distracting, good, but just know that in the long run, that's going to be gone entirely. Moss spline on the docks? No, there's no moss spline on the docks. I was just putting that on the back. Okay. Now let's uncouple from here. And then, again, a scene which we can appreciate thanks to the beauty of train simulators. This is the canoe view, if you will. Oh, that looks nice. That's just a nice scene. Oh, moss on the docks to show age, maybe? We'll see what assets lend themselves to that kind of thing. We can try. And even here, under the bridge. I mean, that's the benefit of having a cell phone and just being able to slide it and take all sorts of photos at different unusual angles. Let me change our lighting so that we have... whoa. Sorry, guys. We're going to change our lighting so that we have afternoon lighting, which means that the sun will be more... Yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. That way, then, when we're looking down this way, we actually have the right lighting on the scene. Sometimes I wish you could turn off directional lighting so you didn't have shadows and so forth, but there's no mistaking the fact that when you do have the shadows on, it gives a great sense of depth. All right. So, now we've taken care of switching out the cars, so we're going to go ahead and grab our... coaches, tack them onto the express cars, and then bring them back to the platform, and then head out of town. We're probably loading up passengers at the moment, which is why it's... Yep, there we go. Oh, look at the little class lights. That is a nice detail. And that building's probably gonna rub with those cars, but we can ignore that, because it's just pixels right now. Let's have a look at the street view from the town of Loleta as we're switching our cars on. I mean, that is nice. Oop, map. And I think that was a good hitch. I say I think because I couldn't actually see. Yep, that looks good to me. Actually, now that I think of it, I'm glad I didn't make my train longer, because it has to be short enough to fit in the runaround, or I would be doing myself a disservice. I think we'll be able to get around it, he says, with a great deal of confidence in his voice. Everywhere you turn, Don says, everywhere you turn is a great shot. Well... Thanks, but again, credit to Iain Rice on coming up with such an innovative plan, because I think that the genius of it is demonstrating that you could do a 4x8 that's not just a cliche roundy. And nothing wrong with that as an approach. Again, I have my own roundy. But to do something that works from an overhead view, like you look at this and you think, that's pretty. That's attractive, that looks like a cohesive layout, but then allows you to really get close to details and feel like you're in the scene. That's the wonder of a good track plan. Okay, something tells me that we're going to be rubbing against cars on either side, but we're going to pretend like we have enough room and run around the cars. Because I like that method of play. Again, another advantage of being able to play with your design before you actually build it is making sure that you can actually fit your train. Even if you can't use the exact, even if you can't use the exact pieces of rolling stock that you have because they don't exist in the sim, you can measure, there's a ruler tool so you can measure how long things are in the game and make sure that things fit. So you know whether or not you're going to have enough room. Oh, I should have taken a shot of that. If only I could turn back time. Funny how I could do that. Sometimes in model railroading you want a fast forward button, and this is one of those times. Now we're going to bring it back for a hitch, and we're going to take off. That'll be our first job for the day done, and then next up we're going to bring in the local switcher and have some fun getting in and really working the industries. Now that I can verify was a good hitch. So we'll get ourselves set up for a nice view of the train as it comes out of town, just as it hits that grade. Oh, that is so nice. Like this is where the pause button comes in handy because I can just stop, realign myself to the view that I want, and now unpause. Let's go back in the cab again, shall we? So again, I want to thank Mike for sending these prairies along for me to play with. And you could get them at trainsforge.com. Ignore the twitching control. That's an artifact of playing DCC mode. You've got two variations, including this version here with the plow, as well as a regular non-plow version. There's also some other railroads available, including CB&Q, and another fictional railroad, the OCN SE, which I forget what that one stands for. Those Trains Forge guys actually have quite a few pretty interesting fictional railroads. Just so you can check it out, here is that's the plow version. Here is the regular non-plow version of the Locomotive. Some seriously nice modeling. And you can see that you have some nice kind of bonus features as well, as far as being able to open different windows and different doors. It's not doing anything because it's paused at the moment, but if we unpause it, you will see that we go to view details. You could change whether or not the train is an extra. Note how the flags appeared, whether it's a scheduled train or an extra. The roof hatch opens and closes. And then all these windows and doors that open give a nice little bit of kind of being able to customize your run, as it were. So very nicely done prairies. So for the last bit of play today, we are going to go back to Buttercup, which we played with last week. And we're going to do some switching. So we're going to take out the express cars. We're going to put in some regular salmon cars. But we're going to say that these are high priority, and so we're going to have a couple of them on our train to swap out. We're going to pick up that box car from there, as well as this box car from here. Do I want to do that? It's always a matter of, like, how much do I actually want to work? We'll ignore that boxcar. We'll swap that boxcar out. And we'll swap those. And we'll just do a pickup of these hoppers rather than dropping off loaded ones. And let's bring, and let us bring in some kind of flat car. So there's our drover caboose. So we'll leave that off to the end for a moment. Now, last time we were doing the original version of Buttercup. This time we'll do the rebuilt version, which has the slightly smaller headlamps. And let's give ourselves a flat car with an interesting load. I think I know which one I want to use, actually. And that is this one. And we'll bring in a flat car of ties for the track work, so we'll bring that to the very end of the track. And I want to bring in a lumber flat. Or a couple of lumber flats. For the, so that we're taking lumber to the, yeah, these Washoe Valley flats should work for us. And we'll load them with some kind of lumber. 16, there we are, lumber. And we'll copy that to both of them. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing next. We've got this not insubstantial train coming in, and this is we're just treating as a freight train. So we're going to be bringing in empty reefers for the salmon cannery. We've got some ties that are going to be going for the track work at the end of the line, and we've got a couple of loaded lumber flats that are going to be taken to the schooner to be transported overseas. We will be picking up these two reefer cars, as well as this box car, and these cars from these empty limestone hoppers. That should be a pretty full switch list of things. Thank you for tuning in, Rudy. Appreciate having you along for the ride. And thank you as well, Ron, for tuning in. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. This Buttercup model is also available on trainsforge.com for purchase. With its really cool, unique oscillating cylinders. So, we start by not seeing it all in the scene. And I suppose I should have varied it up by having it start down here and we'd go up to staging. But the thing is that given that this staging isn't a full yard, it really lends itself to operations where you're setting your train up and coming into the scene. Maybe in the full version, I'll create more of a yard so you can actually bring trains in and turn around cars, cuts of cars. Oh. Hold on. I was going to get a screenshot there and I kept highlighting switches. And a little bit lower. And there we go. Buttercup is such a cute little engine. Speaking of Greenfield Village, it makes me think of Torch Lake, which is an 064 Mason Bogie engine. Oh, we gotta get the money shot here with the Lighthouse. Oh, this is gonna be good. And let's zoom out a little bit. And we'll set ourselves up here. Maybe zoom out a little bit more. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to zoom in such a way where you get to see the whole lighthouse, but yeah, I'll take that as a view. And this time we could we'll take this viewpoint for appreciating Buttercup going into Loleta. Oh, that is a nice view. Yeah, definitely going to replace the switch levers. Some of them I already have, but I'll replace more of them as I get on with it. Okay, so how do I want to go about switching out the salmon cars? And I've also got these lumber cars. Well, the salmon cars are probably going to need to go on a separate track anyway. Oop. And the switch is set wrong. So let me just go back. Yep, okay. So I think I'm going to swap out the salmon cars first as well as grab this box car. And I'll put those in the passage siding, and then I could take the rest of the train, run around the caboose, and so forth at that point. I like how that sounds. Oh, that is such a cute model. All right, coming in to pick up our salmon cars. And even from the outside, this is a really nice view of this track. Gotta love that fresh Umpqua River salmon. Now we're going to head out, take these two cars to our interchange track, or the loop. So while we are going about our switching, what are some things, for those of you who are live or commenting after the fact, what are some things you would like to see on the show next? What type of layout would you like me to build next month, as far as era or design or freight, passenger, that kind of thing? There's one that I really want to build, but I'm kind of afraid that I've been spending too much time building steam locomotive routes. Now, this one that I want to build is British, so it's a little bit of a change of pace. It's one of the most unique designs I've ever seen. It has an element to it that I've never seen anybody else do with any layout ever before, so I want to build that one. But I also don't want to ignore my diesel fans and or more modern era railroading fans. So if you have a preference, let me know what you'd like to see me do next month, because I have an idea, but I am also very open to what you might like to see. Yeah, that'll work. Thinking it had a few switch moves. Fortunately, I think I'm actually blocking this right. And so we will leave that right about here, just to make sure we have enough room for the cars that we are setting out. And now we are going to go back into the cannery spur, drop off these 2 cars, pick up this box car. And then we'll just take that with us to the runaround. Because we're going to come in on this little station track, which, yeah, that seems about right to me. Oh. I seem to be missing a couple of switch stands for some reason. Oh, no, they're there. They're just hiding from me. Just making sure they weren't completely missing. Except, for some reason, I can't seem to highlight them well. Odd. Let's see. Oh, bit fur. Nope. Far enough. And now I'm set on the right track to pick up those cars, too. Trains Van 54, voting for the one I'm talking about. I promise you won't be disappointed. As far as we'll be going to Britain, and there's a mechanic involved with it. Again, you've never seen this done on a train layout before, ever. I can virtually guarantee it. I've combed through hundreds of track plans in the past year because I've become somewhat obsessed with them doing this show, and I've never seen a layout that does this thing. It's really clever. Hey, Kevin, glad that you could join us. No, you didn't miss the stream. In fact, you get to see the products of all our hard work as we take in the Loleta Mad River. Okay, looking at some of your comments. A wall shelf layout. Okay. Narrow gauge Caribbean, Cuban, tropical island. Funny you should mention that, Needed For. There is actually a track plan that I have for a narrow gauge Caribbean tropical island railway. I do have such a plan. That is something I could do. Double tube fan, an element no one has done before. I get excited, but I am biased because I want to build a 1-to-1 layout of my day job switching out a Cargill plant. Well, I'm all for doing industrial switchers. You might actually like the Commonwealth Railway. That layout is now available on greattrainlayouts.com. And that has it's not a Cargill plant, but it's a cement, it's a cement plant that takes in sand. Worth checking out. Gives you a little bit of that switching mix. Isn't it so cute? Tropical Island Railway. I'll have to review the plan that I have for that and see if that... It's a... Yeah, I could see about that. There's some really nice narrow gauge assets for transient. It's true that we haven't done anything narrow gauge yet. So, yeah. And it's like 70s, 80s era. Bit of electric, bit of diesel, bit of car ferry. Now, we have done car ferry before, but is there ever such a thing as too much car ferry? I think not. Okay. And now we're going to head back. Grab the rest of our train. Bring it to the outer harbor. Oh, man. This is just such a nice scene in and of itself. I kind of like the fact that we don't see the water from here because there's so many places where you do see the water. I think it gives a little bit of visual variety to have one part of the layout where you're not staring at a body of water. Because all of this you're looking at it, all of this you're definitely it's in the scene. So yeah, nice to have a little bit where it's like it's there but it's not there. Okay, now pulling ahead. Can't you put a car stop on that top trestle? Yes, and I probably should. Again, there's a lot of super detailing to be done, people figures, some wagons to go with things like these horses. So, yes, I will put a buffer stop up there so that you don't just run your cars off into the bay. Unless that's what you want to do, in which case, no judgment. You do you. Okay, so this boxcar's on the right side. This one actually won't be too bad, as far as the switching puzzle is concerned, because a lot of what we need is already pretty much where it needs to be. Oh, no, I think it's... I'll have to try that. Didn't mean to press the fast forward button that time. First things first, we're going to drop off these loaded flats onto the pier track so that they appear to be in the right place. I know some of you who have already heard that one before, but for those who are first joining us, that's your first time hearing it. Vote on a layout that features the scrapyard. We did do that double tube fan. The Conrail P&L secondary already has a scrapyard. So, not that I'm opposed to doing another layout with a scrapyard, but I'm trying to make sure I do things that I haven't done before in some capacity. Unfortunately, I'm realizing I set the switch the wrong way, so I might have to... I'm going to temporarily use the 5-fingered crane, or the virtual 5-fingered crane, to move my train. Set this switch for the right way. And then I can change the switch to the way I... Nope, I can't change it because it's still saying it's locked. Now I can change it. Now I can move my train back. And now I can get back to what I was doing before, which is putting these cars into that siding. Have I not cleared that switch? I need to choose a different lever, because, man, those switch points, I can't find a grab point for them. Let's move a little further ahead. I am going to replace those switch levers with something else because those are proving to be difficult. In the long run, I will put something nicer. The short term, I'm just going to put these just so I can see what I'm doing for the sake of play testing. Okay, now I could actually properly work those switches. And now I can put those lumber cars where they need to go. Have I seen the Garden Railway in trades? I have. I haven't downloaded it, but yes, I have seen Garden Railways and Trainsy. Would I build one? Maybe at some point. Most garden railroads I find are more just about running around in circles, which I'm not dismissing that, but I don't think it makes for the most interesting build and layout analysis. There's one exception to that in Model Railroaders Great Train Layouts 2021. There's a guy who created a... he built a Western Maryland garden railroad that is designed to be operated. It has coal mines in different towns and passing sidings. Interchanges between the Baltimore and Ohio and the Western Maryland. So that is something that I've contemplated building it, but I don't know if... It's not something I would live stream. It's a much larger layout. Have I considered O gauge, but build it as HO? Yeah, although admittedly a lot of the plans I'm finding are HO scale plans because a lot of O scale plans are assuming that you're just running around in circles. There's some switching ones that I could see doing, though. Okay, now we're going to take our caboose, or our engine, our boxcar. We're going to run around the lumber flat and the drover caboose, which is going to allow us to shove the flat car to where it needs to go with the track construction here. And then everything else is set. We can go back to our other cut of cars, grab those hoppers on the hill, and we'll be heading out of town. And it's 10 o'clock. So we're making good time of things. Oh, TGM, is that your Garden Railway and Trains? Oh, I didn't realize that. But no, I haven't downloaded any Trainsy Garden Railroads. I've seen them, they look cool. It's just not something that I've downloaded yet. So much of the time in Trainsy, I'm route building. Actually, a project I've been working a lot on recently because I really want to get it done. Do you guys remember? Maybe not. When I was building that Wisbeach and Upwell layout, well, not layout, the full Wisbeach and Upwell. If you're not familiar, I 3 years ago started building the entire Wisbeach and Upwell tramway, aka the Toby the tram engine in real life line. And that is something that I worked really hard on for 9 months, and then I kind of worked on and off for past couple of years. But recently I finally put it to myself and said I need to get that done. So that route will hopefully be coming out sometime this month. And that is going to be a full 6-mile recreation of the Wisbeach and Upwell tramway from England in the 19-teens. Available for free download. So that's something I've been spending a lot of time on as of late. Haven't been doing too much of the smaller layout building thing in between. Some of it because I try to save it so that I'm able to enjoy it with you guys. Alright, let's have a look at this scene here as we come around with the boxcar. Yeah, I need to canvas my photos to see if I can find a new backdrop, because I don't want this backdrop to become too cliched, but man. That is a good scene, if I do say so myself. All right. Now we're going to shove these ties to the work site. Double Tube fan, thank you for supporting the content. Needed for, if it isn't a dumb question, what do you think of people who build and run trains in Gmod? If I have any opinion, I don't. I'm familiar with Gary's mod. I've never played it. I have no opinion on that one way or another. All right. I'm going to actually take a picture of that because that's a pretty nice scene, if I do say so myself. Oh, other way. So there we have it. I mean, here we are on our second round trip, and this is what's kind of nice about a small layout is that even if you could get one trip done pretty quickly, you could always make a good full session out of running multiple trips. So we ran our mixed train earlier, and now we're having the fun of running the I know what I was gonna do. I was gonna make it really moody and misty. Yeah, let's do that. Let's have some fun. So an early misty foggy morning. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Getting the fog machine out. Some nice atmospheric lighting. And let me just make sure that I'm going to be heading in on the right track here. Because usually foggy mornings are when somebody makes a mistake and something bad happens. I love the echo of that whistle too. Such a nice whistle. Okay, so last detail of what we got to do here. So these salmon cars are going to go up at the front. Then this boxcar, but we're going to be picking up these 3 hoppers, and the hoppers need to be cut in as well. So, how to do that in the way that makes the greatest degree of sense? I also feel the need to step out for a quick commercial break. So we're going to ponder that question, and we'll be right back on Great Train Layouts Live. And welcome back to Great Train Layouts Live, where we are answering the question I posed at the beginning, which is, how the heck do we get the cars where we want them to be? So we need to have everything on the front of the engine, which we will with these two cars, but these are going to end up on the back. What I am thinking we need to do is put the boxcar on with these cars, grab the caboose, grab these cars, then come back down, leave the caboose back there, put the hoppers on with these, then gather them all up and then head out of town. That is the solution I've come up with. There may be a better one, but that's my plan, and I'm sticking to it. So the first step of that, we are grabbing some hoppers. Oh, that lighthouse. That lighthouse is nice. Need to move myself a bit closer. There we are. Just in the nick of time. Now we'll do our best not to shove them off the end of the pier. See the conversation going on about would Buttercup actually work on a layout like this, and I think it depends on how much that rear truck would pivot. I could see it working, but I could also see maybe needing to make it a fully articulated body. I don't know. Oh. That is nice. That is a scene that makes me happy. You know, for the longest time, I thought I was building these layouts because I was actually going to play with them. And I play with them with you guys. That's part of why I enjoy doing the streams. But admittedly, I just play them and then I go, oh, that's a nice scene. And then I go on to building the next one. It's kind of a funny cycle of things. Yes, Lighthouse shot gave Little Western vibes. Same here. You may have missed the part where I actually had the flying kipper on the layout very briefly. So we're doing a slight variation of what I said. A slightly different variation of what I said, which is I'm going to actually push both of these cars back beyond the switch. Then these hoppers are going to go on to the salmon cars. Then everything gets reassembled and everything heads out of town. Yay for having runarounds. And yay for having a tank engine, which we can enjoy the view of here. Just need to make sure we clear the switch on the back end so we can get the hoppers connected to the salmon cars. I think that should clear it. It does. Let's have a look at what that scene looks like through the bridge. See, the bridge is a really nice framing device for photos and the like. Always worth scouting out the different angle possibilities when you're modeling. Okay. So we'll get these hooked up. That said, when I'm putting the call out for layout build ideas, I should always mention that I do take commissions. So if you're designing a layout and you want to see how it looks, give it the pre-visualization treatment in Train Simulator, or maybe you don't even have a design and you would like to work with somebody to help come up with a track plan based on your space, railroad era modeling requirements. I do take commissions. If you go to greattrainlayouts.com. I was about to say Great Train Layouts Live. It's not that long. greattrainlayouts.com. I do take commissions, and I'd be more than happy to work with you to help you realize your layout vision. Because I know that for a lot of us, sometimes the holdup can be trying to get the idea and worrying if it's going to be perfect, if it's going to hold up to repeat playing. As I said, with this layout behind me, I did a previs mock-up of it before I actually started laying down the track and, well, not cementing it. It's tacked in place because I didn't want to have to get into messy glues and the like. And of course, greattrainlayouts.com is also where you can find all of these layouts that will eventually, once I've had a chance to tune them up, they eventually make their way for you to download there. The latest one that I've uploaded being the Commonwealth Railway, which was the N-scale 12 by 6 foot mainline layout that we built on the show 9 months ago or so. So that's one that you can check out. All right, we've got half of our train. Now let's get the other 2 pieces of it, and then we've got what we need, and we can highball out of town. No idea if this engine could actually pull this up the hill, but don't need to worry about that. In some ways, maybe there's an advantage to if it couldn't, and you'd have to do more round trips, so every time you go, you're maybe switching out 4 cars at a time, but then you're doing more round trips as a result. Beauty of your railroad, you can run it any way you want to. Time to head out of town. I forget if we can... Oh, yeah, we can sit in the caboose. There's Loleta going off in the distance. Let's take a look at our train as we climb past the lighthouse. And also make sure our switch is set so that we're going back to staging the proper way. So as we're coming to the end of tonight's show, I want to thank you all for tuning in and joining me here on Great Train Layouts Live, where every month, ordinarily, every month, the third or fourth Tuesday or Thursday of the month, we build a train layout right in front of your very eyes as a means of realizing great track plans and bringing them to life for us to enjoy and learn from together. This has been the Loleta and Mad River Railroad, and we'll take one final look at it once we clear up the fog and once we get our train back to staging. This has been a truly fun build. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching it and learning from it, and I've appreciated your feedback and your ideas for how to make the most of it. I'm really happy with how this has turned out, and I look forward to sharing it with you, hopefully within a month or two. But I think that if I had to summarize what makes it great, there are just so many switching possibilities. There are so many different small little scenes. It's a really unconventional 4x8. And something that I could also see having a lot of fun doing in narrow gauge 009 scale. So let us switch back to a sunny day so we can have one final look at the Loleta and Mad River. And there you have it. From track plan to playtime. We have been able to explore the possibilities that this plan offers. And I would love to see if somebody brought this to life someday. I think that it would be a challenging build, but a rewarding build. Until, I don't know that there's going to be another, given the holidays are coming up, I think we're looking at our next stream at the end of January. But if you have any suggestions for what you'd like to see on the show, or you'd like to commission me to live stream doing a pre-visualization of your layout, greattrainlayouts.com. You can reach out to me there. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. You guys are awesome, and it's great to have you along for the ride. Have a good night.